Welcome to the Comic Book Shop of Doom. I'm your host. This video is not for children, so if you're under 13, get your parents' permission to watch this. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, if you've seen any of the current news, the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the creators walked away from, they're doing do a live action show for Netflix. So Nickelodeon is producing this thing, and they walked away from it. And what we're going to talk about is why are there so many remakes, reboots, and sequels to established properties? And well, the easy thing is it's easy, fast money in their opinion. There's a couple reasons. I'm going to get into them, but number one, if it was popular before, they figured that it'll do good again. And this is also a problem where these media companies, they operate with very little money. When they get a project they want to make, like one of these movies or TV shows, they basically got to go to one of these entertainment banks and borrow money to make the project. And these banks are less likely to give them money for an original idea unless it has like some kind of superstars attached to it. They're more likely to give them money for sequels, reboots, and remakes because it already was established that it was a hit before, and they'll tell them it's going to be a hit again. And that way they're hedging their bets where they think that, okay, this is going to make money and we'll get the loan paid back. That's part of the problem. And that's Hollywood accounting is, people were screaming when Avengers Endgame made $2 billion around the world, and they're like, where did that money go? Well, it went out to, they paid out to shareholders, and they paid expenses out, and they paid down some debt that they had from acquiring other businesses. So that money's gone. So now that when they're hit with this problem where they're losing $40 million a day with the parks being closed because of COVID-19, or they're operating at very little capacity, they're actually operating at a loss. They're like, why? What happened to that money? That money's already gone. And a lot of these businesses do that where they have to pay out to the shareholders. They want their money. And that's why when a new project comes up, they got to take out bank loans. And they do this too because this is a tax thing where they're less likely to pay higher taxes and stuff. So they have an army of accountants that know every trick in the book on how to manipulate these bills and taxes and everything else. And also today was, it's coming out that Warner is looking to sell Crunchyroll, the anime streaming service, to Sony. And they want a $1.5 billion for it. Now, I was doing the math on this. Okay, let's say they charge $10 a month on that. There's 3 million people are subscribers to that. So that's $30 million a month they're making. Times 12, that's $360 million a year. So you figure it times 5. 5 to 7 is when they're buying a business, minus the debt and any other bills that they owe. So I said that's about a right number. So you figure $360 million times 5, that's a little over $1.5 billion. So the rest of it you figure is probably debt that they owe on it. So it's an accurate number. So that's how they work selling businesses, is they take between 5 and 7 years of what the business brings in per year in revenue, and they times that, and then they subtract whatever they owe in debt. And that's usually how they sell a business. But the sequels and all that, that when these guys go up and they say, hey, we want to make, like Fox is making, now Fox is owned by Disney, the Fox Film Corporation. They're making 4 Avatar sequels. Now, why are they doing that? Because Avatar #1 was the #1 movie for almost over 10 years until Avengers Endgame came around. So that's why they're doing it. It's easy to get these banks to float a loan to them saying, hey, we're going to do part 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they're going to come out every other Christmas. And in the Christmases that we don't do that, we're going to come out with a Star Wars movie. And look at Star Wars. They had the box office crown until Disney ran it into the ground with The Last Jedi. And Solo, too. And Solo was a good movie. It's just that people, I don't think, took to that Aiden Ehrenreich guy um, as a replacement for Harrison Ford. So they're going to fix this. They're going to make a young Luke Skywalker movie, but they bought his likeness to do CGI. So no matter what, Mark Hamill's going to be in the movie with his blessing, and they paid him off. They're going to have a young actor playing Luke Skywalker, but he's going to have Mark Hamill's face. And, you know, and they're going to, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's all legal. He's paid off and everything, and he agreed to it. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to drag money out of that. And that's because they learned their lesson where people didn't accept that young kid to be a young Harrison Ford. Now, would Harrison Ford sell his likeness to Disney? I don't know. It depends on how much money it's worth to him. And I mean, he's up there in age. He's 78 years old. So, I mean, if they came to him and he was on his deathbed and they said, Harrison, we're going to give you $30 million right now just to sign the paper where we got your likeness to make movies after your death, I'm sure he'd take it because he'd give it to his kids, his wife, and anybody else that's friends of his that are still alive, his family. It's easy money. They're going to figure out something. They could do that after he's dead. They could go to the wife or the kids or the estate or whatever. And, you know, but the whole thing is they're going to milk every nickel out of these movies and all that. And the other thing is they have to keep the copyrights up. So every couple of years, and the cheapest way to keep a copyright going is if you see a weird comic book come out, like a one-shot on a character that nobody remembers or whatever. They're like, why did they put out a Machine Man comic book, like a one-shot? It's to keep the copyright on that character. And they could keep that, and it's property. It's just like if you own an apartment building, it's an apartment that you could lease out. So you could always sell Machine Man to somebody. You could lease them out to make a movie, a TV show, a stage play, an action, whatever. You know, toys, underwear, whatever. And it just takes creativity, you know, and that's one of the things that a lot of people are screaming Hollywood's ran out of. And part of it's due to the way that they do their accounting and their payoffs. And will it ever change? I doubt it. But I just wanted people to know why they make a lot of sequels, reboots, and remakes. Is it's easy money, and it's easier to get a bank loan that way. They could get money to do the project, where if you came up with a brand new idea with some unknown actors and you want $100 million to make this, they're not going to give it to you. If you tell them, well, I need $100 million, I'm going to make another Star Wars or a Spider-Man movie, guess what? They're going to put the money in your account the next day, and here's the terms of the service. Everybody have a good night.